All right, friends, today we have a special episode of Conquer the Day where we are going to be pulling back the curtain on a big goal that Brian and I recently accomplished within our fitness and health journey. This is an episode that's really meant to show you how to take a goal and use it to push you forward. It's a goal that can inspire you and really meet you in the season you're in. Now, that's all going to make sense here in just a moment, but if you've been needing a spark of inspiration, if fitness hasn't been feeling as fun and as enriching as you'd like it to be lately, then this is the perfect episode for you to be listening to. That said, my name is Lindsay Pickowitz.
And I'm Brian Pickowitz. We are the head coaches and co-founders here at the Fitness Project, where we focus on building fit and healthy leaders. Now, as you're tuning in, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel so you can continue to stay engaged with everything we're posting here, because we have consistent content coming out to really support you and your fitness goals. Now, today what we're talking about is how do you actually set a goal that inspires you, that enriches you, that allows you to move forward in the current season of life that you're in. Recently, Lindsay and I accomplished probably one of the more challenging goals or challenging achievements that we've ever had in our fitness and health journey. We've competed in bodybuilding. We've both had tremendous weight loss journeys. I lost 50 pounds in about 9 months to 8 months. Did my first contest. Lindsay had her own weight loss journey. I've done ultra marathons. I've done marathons. Lindsay's done ultra marathons and marathons too. But this goal was actually a lot more challenging than we anticipated, and that was running a half marathon through the mountains of New Hampshire. Okay, so it was like 4,000 plus feet of elevation in such a short amount of time, and it really was a challenge, which is perfect because that's exactly what we wanted. Yes. So we did it together. It was something that I felt called to do, and I said, hey, Lindsay, can you join me on this? She didn't even know what she was signing up for. But it ended up being a tremendous goal to accomplish, a tremendous goal to push towards. And we thought there was really some valuable lessons that could serve you too.
So that's a great place to start, because this was a goal that you decided you wanted to do, and then you signed me up the week before so I didn't get cut off. But why did you actually want to do this? Because it wasn't like a conversation we had for months and months. You were kind of just like, I need to do something. I'm gonna run a half marathon. I registered today.
Yeah.
So why did you actually want to do this just for fun, or what was the reason?
The reason was I wanted something that was going to challenge me, that I felt like I could make progress towards, but didn't feel like it was going to be outside of my current time constraints. So I had a client who was actually on the podcast here, Karen. She had run her first 50K.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like this is really inspiring. And as she talked about like running through the woods and seeing the trees and like this whole experience, I was like, wow, I really did love the ultra marathon experience. I prepped for it. I would run all these miles. I was just so dialed in during that phase of life. And I thought, well, I kind of want to experience that again. But at the same time, I didn't want to go run a marathon. I didn't want to run an ultra marathon. I didn't want to commit that much time to that goal based off of the current responsibilities, my current business goals, and what's really important to me. So I wanted to make progress in this area, but what I really wanted was to have an experience that challenged me, an experience that enriched me, an experience where I felt connected to nature, an experience that allowed me to have focus day in and day out. And in unison, I stacked another goal inside of that, which is I wanted to get in shape for Fiji. And we were taking a trip to Fiji, and we had this 5-day vacation and a 4-day health retreat that we were doing. So I was like, I want to be in the best shape possible. And these two goals kind of coincided with that. And so the reason why we did this was to have a physical push, a physical aim, and an experience together. And I wanted to share this before we go any further, because I think it's actually really helpful for anyone who's listening to this who needs to set a goal. If you want to set a goal, if you're feeling like you're sluggish, you're falling behind, and you're not really on top of your game, the first thing you have to ask yourself is, why do I have to accomplish this? Your reason has to come first, because we all have very similar goals. I want to run a half marathon. I want to lose weight. I want to get in good shape. I want to experience good energy or good health. Whatever that goal is, that's the easy part. And a lot of people then jump to the how. How do I have to act or behave, or what do I have to do to accomplish this goal? But the truth is, that's why they fail, because they never ask why. Why do I actually have to accomplish this goal? What's the reason behind it? And if your reason isn't compelling, if it doesn't move you or get you started or get you going, if it doesn't keep you on the path, then it's probably not strong enough. And so for me, I had multiple reasons. I wanted to connect with you. I wanted to connect with nature. I wanted to connect with myself. I wanted to push myself. I wanted to feel energized. I also wanted to be ready for this photo shoot. I want to be ready for this trip. I also want to be a better role model for our team. There's all these different reasons. And so it was easier to follow through. So if you don't have a clear purpose, a clear reason, that's the first thing, is ask yourself, why am I going to do this? How is it going to change my life? How is it going to enrich my life if I accomplish this?
And I'm curious, during your training, you gave yourself a little bit more time than I gave myself. I figured I've run that far before. It'll be fine. I'll start training at some point soon. I'm in good shape. So I trained for probably 4 weeks, but you trained a little bit longer. So what did the training teach you about maybe keeping fitness enjoyable or having a goal again? What did the training teach you?
What was fascinating is I had the goal of losing, let's say, 15 pounds before the race, because I knew I would run better. I would have a photo shoot after. It felt fantastic. And the first 4 weeks, I didn't lose a single pound. The first 6 weeks, I was teetering up and down. And it was a great reminder of the importance of seeking lessons. Seeking lessons from your feedback. Oftentimes people will set out to accomplish something, they don't accomplish the goal right away, and instead of asking, what do I have to change, they say, well, it's not worth it. I shouldn't have even tried. I guess I'm going to fail again. They never look for the lesson. So I learned that my nutrition habits and my habits around training were good enough for me to stay healthy, but they weren't good enough for me to make progress. They weren't good enough for me to keep moving. So at first, I just started kind of winging my plan. First 4 weeks, I was winging my nutrition. I was winging my training. I said, I'm just going to be more mindful. And, here's kind of how I'm going to start running, start doing it. After 4 weeks, I realized I didn't make any progress. So I said, okay, well, I need to build a plan for the next 12 weeks. What is my plan? What is my approach? I put together a whole training plan. I started executing the training plan, started seeing more progress when it came to running. But I still noticed within those 2 weeks, I wasn't making any progress weight-wise. I said, okay, what's my nutrition? And I realized that Thursday night and Friday night, we were going out to eat with people. We'd go on a date. We'd go out and get drinks with someone. We'd go and spend time with a family member or a friend or a business colleague. And, that is why I'm not making progress. Because I would see Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday going in the right direction. Thursday, wake up in the right direction. Friday and Saturday up. Okay. So I realized that there was so many great lessons for how to be dialed in and how to change things. And then once I made that distinction, when I made that change about 6 weeks in, my progress became rapid because I would sit down every Sunday and I would check in on what my plan was. How much progress did I make the week before? How much progress do I want to make this week? What's my plan and approach for training? And how am I going to think about my nutrition? It took me about maybe 15 minutes because the plan was already built out. But once I shifted that focus and I started to learn lessons, it made it much easier to see the progress that I wanted to make. So I think the key is for anyone, if you don't have a plan, you're not going to achieve your goal. If you're not tracking and measuring to that plan, not going to achieve your goal. It's going to be really challenging. Maybe there's a 20% chance. If you are doing the plan and you're tracking, measuring, and not seeing the result, you have to change your plan, change your approach. And then from there, you just keep moving and executing. And I think that constant checking in allows you to actually assess, like, what do I have to change? How does it have to be? And in the result, I ended up losing, I think, like 12 pounds. Felt fantastic. Ran the race, had the experience I wanted, did a photo shoot, felt fantastic as well. But it was because I had the right plan and approach.
Yeah, and my lessons were a little different from this race. Again, this wasn't necessarily my goal, but Brian brought it up and I wanted to take part in his goal. He said, we're going to run this together. So I figured, we'll both run it, not necessarily side by side. Again, this was called the Kismet Cliff. It's called the Beast of the East, right?
Yes, it's marketed as the most challenging half marathon in all of New England.
Yeah, so we're going to run this half marathon together, but I figured we'd be running it separate. So in my head, that meant I could kind of be lax on my training. As long as I could finish 13 miles, then whatever. But then somewhere around 6 weeks out, Brian told me that we were actually going to be running it together, which is a totally different game because that means I need to keep up with him. So at that point, I thought, well, I should probably actually train for this. And I ended up putting a 4-week, it might have been 5 weeks, but I think it was 4-week plan in place to start building up my endurance and my miles to get to the point where I could run a half marathon at a decent pace. What's funny is my lesson from my training was this was, I think, the first time that I was actually working towards a goal that wasn't my goal, but was still important to me. It was important to me because it was something that you cared about, and I wanted to not make you proud per se, but I wanted to keep up with you. I didn't want to be a drag on your plans. So there was a purpose to do something that was going to be a good experience. And if I was going to drag you down, I knew that wouldn't be a good experience because I get really bothered when I'm behind and then Brian says, you need to go faster. You need to speed up. So I was like, I need to be in good enough shape to do this and have fun with it. But then the other interesting thing that I learned was that I need to be further ahead of the game because I could have been training for this for 16 weeks, but I waited until it was urgent. And in this particular season of my life, we'll say at this point it's probably 8 weeks ago or 2 months, 3 months ago, I was really working on breaking up with urgency in business where I didn't want to wait until things were urgent. I wanted to start working on them when I identified that they were important, but not yet urgent. And so this was a whole theme of that particular season was breaking up with urgency, learning how to work on the most important thing, even if it's not necessarily the most urgent thing. And it ended up pouring into my training as well because naturally things came up. I wasn't able to perfectly execute my 4-week training plan. So the longest run that I did was only 8.5 miles. And typically for a half marathon, you at least want to get to about 10 miles. Your body can carry you through if you don't get trained up that far. But I didn't get all the way there. And I thought to myself, well, this is exactly what happens if you wait until it's urgent. You need to start before it's urgent and when it's important. Great thing is, I don't give myself enough credit. I was in fantastic shape and I was like a mountain goat hopping up those hills. Nevertheless, the lesson was still there. But my question for you is, and for both of us, is what is the difference in your mindset around a goal like this now versus when you were first getting started in fitness?
When I first started in fitness, I had so much time to spend on my training or dial in my nutrition, and I didn't have any responsibilities. Now I have a tremendous amount of responsibilities. I have more on my plate, and the amount of time that I want to spend in training has not even halved. It's only 25% of what it used to be. I would go to the gym maybe twice a day, or I'd work out for a few hours a day. Whatever I had to do in order to make progress, I was willing to do it. It was my top priority. Now it's not. And so the difference is, even when I set a goal, I assess how much time do I want to allocate to this. And that changes the lens of what I want to do. If I only want to allocate an hour to this 5 days a week, okay, this is how I'm going to approach it. This is what I'm going to do. If I want to allocate an hour 3 times a week, here's what I'm going to do. Here's how I'd optimize it. So it's always a toggle or a dial of how much time do I want to allocate to this, and how important is it in this season of life to be intense about it. I always want to be intense in the action, but the overall intensity towards the goal, of the daily basis, how much do I want to focus on it? So it's more of, hey, how can I have it as a daily habit versus feeling like it's an overarching goal that's really the most important?
Yeah.
And that's also why I set this goal to be a half marathon. Because in the half marathon we picked was very intentional. I wanted to find the hardest half marathon that I could possibly do. I didn't want to just go and run and get a medal. I want to find the most challenging one, the thing that's going to suck the most, the thing that's going to really challenge me and grow me, the thing that's going to be also connected to nature and feel like an ultra marathon, because the ultra marathons are trail runs. Okay, I found that criteria and I found something that fit my time constraints.
And what's funny is we didn't even get a medal.
No, there's no medals.
No medal.
There's
in
a
this
hat.
one.
You get a hat.
You get a hat and a shirt if you sign up early enough, which was not me. But no, it's a great point. And my mindset, I think, I wonder if you hear this and think it's similar to what you just said. But when I first started fitness, if I signed up for something like a bodybuilding show or a half marathon, it had to come first. It was the most important thing. It was the top priority. It was the first part of my day, and I would allocate as much time as was needed for it. And I would make sure that even if my schedule was tight or I was busy because I was in school or whatever, or working full time, I made sure it came first. Now, I'm still really mindful that it needs to be important and it needs to fit and it needs to happen, but I don't see it as the thing that needs to come first, which is interesting. I see it as a must. It's important. It's a priority. And there's other things that are actually more important than that particular goal. So I need to handle those things first. And then it's an absolute must that I take the hour to go do the run. But it doesn't have to be the first thing.
Yeah. And with that mindset, that was actually how I changed the approach as well, because everything else that I did, I was still training, let's say 5 to 6 days a week. But during the week, it was 45 minutes to an hour. Very simple, very easy, or even less than that. Hey, I got to go run 3 miles. Okay, that's 30 minutes. Sweet. That's my training for today. And then I would have one long training session for my long run. Mm-hmm. So those long runs where you're getting up to like 18 miles, or I did end up running 18 miles, even though the half marathon's only 13.2.
Just had to go further.
I wanted to push myself, and I was in a good groove, and I said, okay, I'm going to keep challenging myself because I like those long runs, but that would only be maybe 2.5 hours at the most.
Yeah, so if we're really thinking about
it, so I would
have
one day that was a challenge, and then everything else was pretty much like in alignment with something that anyone could do.
Yeah, because the other question a lot of times is, do I actually have time for this goal? Mm-hmm. Because I don't feel like I have time for even myself. So if I set a goal, then I'm going to need to carve it out. And same for me. I mean, I like to boil it down to the how can I make this as easy as possible for myself? And especially with training, the mentality I would give people is it really doesn't need to be that fancy, and it doesn't need to take that much time. If you were to go find a running coach, like any running coach, they would tell you to start running 4 days a week. And to be honest, I ran twice a week. One was a short run for 30 minutes. One was a long run, to your point, for over an hour and a half, whatever it ended up being over the course of the training. But you don't have to dedicate your whole life to be able to accomplish a goal. You can look at it from the lens of, if this is the most important thing, then make it so. Or you can look at it from the lens of, this is really important to me. I need to make it a must. How can I fit it in my life? Both are valid questions. Both will probably have a different training plan. But for us, it was more about, hey, I really want to accomplish this thing. Where does it fit? What can I do? And making it work from there, you know? Because it doesn't, you've talked about this before, but a lot of the running side of things can get like very fancy. Mm-hmm. Like you need to do your fartlek run, and then you need to do this type of run, and you need to go to this place and eat this food. Yeah. But it's like, you could just go run 13 miles and drink some water and you'd probably be okay.
Yeah, I think, and obviously if you're just starting out, just get out there. But
keep it simple.
Keep it simple. But I think the most important thing is that you define the reasons why it's important. If you don't have a reason to accomplish your goal or pursue it, you're never going to follow through. Reasons always come first. Actions and behaviors come second. So if you have a compelling why, it will get you moving forward. Once you have that determining factor of why this is important and you're going to focus on it, the next thing you need is to understand, what do I have the capacity for? What do I have the capacity for? This is why I want to do it. What do I have the capacity for? And if you don't feel like you have the capacity, it's your responsibility to make it, right? No one's going to save you. No one's going to change your schedule for you. You have to decide what needs to go, what needs to be eliminated, what needs to be removed. And that comes in different seasons in different in different seasons and different chapters. You have to be able to decide what needs to be removed or reduced. And it's just a matter of project managing it. But you're the project manager. If you want to create your life, you have to be intentional about where you're spending your time. And if you're not sitting down throughout the week and figuring out where you're allocating your time, you're not going to have the life you want. One of the first things we do every week, every Sunday, what's the next week look like? What's important? What are we trying to accomplish? So you have to be intentional with where you're spending your time, and that's a good place for you to start really building out the right plan.
Yeah. Now,
let's talk about the race.
Let's talk about the actual race. We're on the same page.
Let's talk about the race. It's crazy.
It was crazy. Do you want to start or do you want me to start?
No, let's hear it.
Race. The funny part of this race was, I mean, there were a couple things. When we got to the race, I knew it was going to be a mountain run, but I didn't know it was basically going to be a hike. I'm pretty well trained cardiovascular wise, or aerobically, if you will. But this race, like, my body just felt absolutely trashed after the first hour. I made my first face plant tripping on a route, and we just started going straight up.
Yes.
For, I don't even know, it must have been 2 miles.
Imagine hiking a 4,000-foot mountain.
But as fast as you can.
But running, yes.
But running. And I was just so humbled because the night before, we looked up the race just to get a feel for what typical times were. And I looked up the women, and there were people running it in 2 hours. So a half marathon in 2 hours, 2.5 hours at most. And I thought to myself, okay, well, those people are probably pretty well trained for this race. So maybe we'll get it done in 3 hours. And that was kind of my expectation going in. So then once we really got into it, and I realized after the first half of the race that it had already been 2.5 or 2 hours, I was very wonderfully humbled.
Yes.
And impressed.
Well,
by how fast people are.
A lesson for me, I knew it was going to be a trail climb. I knew it was going to be a mountain, but I figured my regular street running shoes would be sufficient. Biggest problem were those shoes, because everything coming down the hill and everything going up the hill, I had no grip. And so trying to brace myself going down a mountain, everyone else was able to run. I was like, if I try running, my shoes are going to slip and I'm going to get hurt. So the first half of the race, we were actually in maybe the top 25. Like, we were in a really good seating. Maybe it was 30 or whatever. We were in a really good place. And then once we reached the top and we started going down, people just started passing us like that.
Yeah, the down was where people passed us. I was so surprised by that.
Well, when it came to this part where we're at the top of the top of the peak, and Lindsay and I, like I said, we were in the top 25 because we were leading the pack in the first 2 miles, 3 miles. We were in the top maybe 15 at that point. So it's not like we were going slow. We were going really well. And then once we got to the top, I decided that, you know what? I just want to enjoy this. I don't care about who beats me. I don't care about how many people will pass me. Look at the view. And there's this one moment where I stopped Lindsay. It's no. Let's enjoy this for a second. Look at this mountain. We just climbed this whole mountain. I don't really care if anyone beats me. They already beat me. And I'm not doing this for them. Do this for me. A different race, maybe I'm pushing myself. I have a challenge. I have a goal. I might not have had that experience, but this goal was just
for fun.
For me. Yeah. For fun, right? A challenge, a thing that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I didn't care about anyone else's race. It was my race.
Yeah, what you talked about was the value of achievement, of just setting the goal and achieving it was enough.
Yeah.
It didn't need to be, I achieved it and I beat everyone.
Yeah.
It could just be, I achieved a thing I wanted to do. Awesome.
Yep. So we slowed down, and then on the way down, it really was a challenge, right? Like I said, it was a challenge to be able to go at a pace that didn't put all the impact on my knees. So my feet didn't have any grip, which meant that my ankles, my feet didn't really have the ability to to take in the impact, and it started sending up towards my knee. So my
Yeah.
knees were just feeling it on the
So,
way down.
If you're going to do a trail run, get trail shoes.
Yeah. It
or
was
at least trail
no,
shoes with grip.
get trail shoes.
Yeah.
You'll be smarter than I was.
Yes. And my lesson as I got into the race, if you remember at the beginning of this podcast, I said this wasn't necessarily my goal, but the reason I wanted to do it was because I wanted to have an experience with my husband. I wanted to have an experience with Brian. It was something important to him, and he really wanted to do it for fun and for achievement and for pushing himself. And so I was like, oh my gosh, and you want me to be a part of it? I would love that. So as we got into this run and I realized that I'm in really good shape, which happens occasionally, I'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm in better shape than I thought I was. But when I realized that I was in really good shape and I could just kind of start cruising, especially on the down, I had to come back to my reasons for doing this race. Because Brian had slippery shoes and he was going to get hurt if he was trying to keep up with me or with anybody else just because of his shoes. And I had to come back and say, Lindsay, your goal was not to do this as fast as you possibly can. The reason that you're doing this is to have an experience and a connection with Brian. So you just need to let go of whatever expectation or pressure you're putting on the two of you to get this race done in a certain period of time. And after I let that go, the race was much more fun because this is the parallel to life. And the great thing about fitness and setting goals that challenge you is that you get to see your most limiting patterns pop up. And then you get to be face to face with them in the course of an hour to 2 hours instead of 10 years of your life trying to figure out why you keep doing that to yourself. In this moment, the pattern for me was I tend to put really high expectations on things without realizing that I'm doing it. So all of a sudden I'll feel this competitiveness or this push, this drive, this pull, however you want to define it, to accomplish some type of outcome. Whether it's finding the perfect restaurant or finishing the race faster than we anticipated or whatever it is, it's some type of outcome that nobody really needs me to accomplish, but for some reason I feel like we must do it or else, I don't know. In those moments when I realize the expectation is so high, just like in this race, all I have to do is recognize that I'm doing that thing again and then let it go. And I enjoy my life much more when I do that. The race was a great opportunity to break that pattern.
Yeah. And I think that's what the value of training is.
Mm-hmm.
You start to understand yourself more. You start to see yourself more.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when we lived in Dallas, we were living with one of our clients, and I was training him one day. And I said, honestly, I don't think that a lot of people know how to push themselves or want to push themselves. He's like, that's crazy. Why wouldn't someone want to push themselves? Well, that's how he lives his life. He lives his life as if every opportunity to do something is an opportunity to do it at my best and to push myself and be the best. That's not everyone's motto. That's not everyone's way of looking at the world. So you start to understand yourself by seeing, oh, this is the way I think about taking care of myself or taking care of this situation that isn't fully about myself. It really is. Yeah. And you'll notice it. That's why I've always loved running. Mm-hmm. I mean, when you run, you're starting to see, oh, when do I want to quit? And when do I start to take it easy? And what stories do I tell myself? What are some of the things I'm saying to myself? Yeah. You're just spending 2 hours by yourself, which is why I really don't like listening to podcasts. I think listening to a podcast during a run is unproductive because you're not getting something for you. Mm-hmm. You know, a little podcast here and there, sure. But no, I don't think that's valuable. I would rather be silent or listen to music and just have my thoughts and really be able to think, really be able to understand myself. Mm-hmm. And if that's scary to you, it's probably all the more reason to do it.
Mm-hmm. My last question for us to maybe pull apart a little bit is how might someone be able to tell, well, I'll ask two questions kind of on the same vein. How could somebody tell whether they're approaching fitness in a way that enriches their life or drains it? And similarly, what would we advise somebody do to make fitness more fun or more enriching, especially if it feels like a drag or a drag-in, overwhelming?
Yeah. The first thing you have to do is you have to establish your purpose. If you don't have a clear purpose, you will not follow through. It will feel empty. It will feel draining. So the first thing you have to do is you have to establish, why am I doing this? Why does it matter? What's the purpose? What's the reason? Or what's the reasons? And stack the deck in favor of you following through. Because again, if you do not have a clear purpose and a clear reason, you won't follow through. So many people ask, how do I get there? How do I get there? What do I have to eat? How do I have to train? What do I have to do? Versus, why is this really important to me? If you spend more time digging into that and really pulling out that part of you, that piece of you that says, this is really something that's important, you'll fight for it. You'll find a way. Yeah. So you always have to start there and build something that compels you. For me, with this race, it was, I want a challenge. I want something that's going to grow me. I want something that I can target my focus towards. I also want to have an experience. I don't want to just go run a half marathon again. I want to go feel like I'm doing something that's connected to nature. And another reason was I've never run a half marathon in our home state of New Hampshire. So I could have picked one in Vermont or Massachusetts or Tennessee. Or not, I could have picked one in Tennessee, but Maine. I could have picked one anywhere, right? I picked Tennessee because that's where our two coaches, Caitlin and Stephen, live. I could have picked a half marathon anywhere. I chose this one because it was also my home state, and I never even seen the mountains like this. So, okay, there's another reason. Another reason is we have a photo shoot coming up, and I want to be in my best shape. We have a trip to Fiji. I want to be in my best shape. Okay, all these reasons are stacked in my favor. So if you don't have a compelling reason, you start there. Mm-hmm. And think of all the things that you want to do. And then, kind of similar to your question, you can see how the questions that I asked myself, why is it important? What do I want to get from this? What are my reasons? They started to lead me towards what I ended up pursuing. I want to maybe challenge myself and experience a half marathon, like going to a race again. Okay, what else is important? Well, I want to have the feeling of an ultra marathon without the time. Okay, so it'd be a trail run. Fantastic. Well, where else do you want to, like, what else is important? Well, looking at the races, I've never run a race in New Hampshire. This one would work really well, and it was in perfect timing right before our trip. Okay, awesome. Fantastic. It made that criteria. So for you, sit down and ask yourself, what's the real goal and why is it important? And then start building your map out, or bring that to your coach, or bring that to your trainer, bring that to someone who can help bring it to life. Mm-hmm. Right? I talked to Steven. I said, Steven, one of our coaches, I think I'm going to run a half marathon. And then I sent him that one. He's like, that's badass. That's all I needed. You know what I mean?
Simple.
That's all I needed. I was like, awesome, we're locked in.
Yeah.
I was like, I put a deposit, I paid the thing, we're doing this. It was just a matter of having some camaraderie. So if you don't have that, find a community where you have it. Find people that will foster that growth.
That's true. Put
yourself around healthy people who challenge themselves. One of the reasons why I want to do it too is because Steven's running a marathon.
Very speedy marathon.
He's I think by the time we released this, he'd already run his Chicago marathon, and he's going for this goal of qualifying for Boston. He's like getting after it. I'm like, well, geez, if he's going to be getting after it, I want to get after it. Mm-hmm. I don't have to get after it in the same way. I'm going to get after my own way. But the more you can pull in influences, you're going to follow through. And if you don't follow through, it's because you don't have enough.
Yes. I would echo that. There's also a great question that I received from Karen as well. Karen Heyman, we had on the podcast a few weeks ago. If you scroll back and you find the Inner Critic podcast, she talks about this a lot. But one of the best questions you can ask yourself if fitness is feeling like a drag is, what would actually light me up? What would light me up? What would spark joy? What would make me have fun with this? What would I enjoy? And you don't let yourself get away with the answer of I don't know or nothing, because that's BS. It's not true. You can find joy in the most mundane things if you have the right mindset about it. So if you really think about your goal with fitness and you can't figure out what you want to do, then start looking for some inspiration. Do whatever it takes to find that inspiration, because if you have a goal that inspires you and lights you up, it's going to pull you forward. It's going to make it obvious to follow through. But if you don't, and you're just doing something because you feel like you should, it's going to drain you. Not just because it doesn't have purpose, because maybe logically it has some purpose and it makes sense, but it doesn't light you up. And you're not finding the things about it that could bring you joy. So if you can ask yourself that question in combination with those that Brian gave you, you're really going to be able to make fitness something that's enriching and that's joyful. The last thing I'll say on this is, if you really want to have fitness as a core part of your life and who you are and what you do every day, it needs to be enjoyable. Enjoyability, if that's a word, is one of the key determining factors of whether or not you build a lifestyle.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that made this so enjoyable is Ozzy Osbourne had died right before my training, and I just started listening to all of Ozzy's albums.
That's true.
And I would get done those runs. I'd be like, Lindsay, these songs, like they're the songs I used to listen to when I was like training for football and bodybuilding. It's like, listen to this song. The song pumps me up, it fires me up. Listen to the lyrics. I mean, they're more enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
So that simple distinction, if I was just running to my normal songs, I'd be like, oh, same thing again and again. But it became a new experience because it had more meaning.
Yeah, no, that's very fair. That's very fair. So that's what we got for you. The race was amazing. It was one of the most beautiful places, I would say, in the country I've been. And it was a beautiful experience for us together as a couple, our first actual competition or race that we had literally done side by side together to the finish line.
She'd been asking me to do a race together, so
let's do something together.
Guys, listen to your wives.
Yeah, exactly.
Hear the hints, but find your own way.
Hear the hints and find your own way, and then she'll go with you. And probably vice versa in some sense. Keep dropping hints. Keep asking the question, even if they say no. And don't put any pressure on them, but just keep letting them know how important it is to you, especially if you're, as women, the ones who are going first. I'll leave it there.
I have nothing to say. I went first. Guys, go first.
Yeah.
Come on, let's do this. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Take care of yourself. Let's go.
Step up.
So on that note, we hope this is helpful. Let us know what your big takeaway is. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Also, check out some of the new podcasts and episodes we're releasing here on the channel so you can get more information on how to really fuel your fitness and become the leader that you need to be. But we hope that you got something from this. And on that note, go out and conquer your day.
Cheers.
Cheers.